Hello, I'm Caroline Marshall, and welcome to Bump to Business Owner, the podcast speaking to mums in business, you. I'll be in conversation with some of the most inspiring women and mothers in enterprise about their journey, how they created their successful businesses alongside raising their children, and what that looks like in work and family life. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Bump to Business Owner. I'm your host, Caroline Marshall, and today is a woman I feel very aligned with as she is on a mission to transform the assistant world, navigating the wild ride of first-year motherhood. Anna Bailey is the founder of Pally Talk, a platform designed to empower female assistants through community, flexible job opportunities, and a fresh, modern approach to networking. Launched in March 2024, weeks before giving birth to her son, Pally Talk reflects Anna's deep belief that mothers returning to work deserve flexibility, empowerment, and support. What started as a place to help mums explore freelance assistant roles has rapidly evolved into a vibrant community of hybrid, remote, and part-time professionals sharing resources, job leads, and real-life advice. In this honest and heartfelt conversation, Anna shares what it's really like to launch a business with a newborn, the reality of postnatal recovery and loss, and why she believes the 6 to 9 baby month stage is totally underrated. From emergency C-sections to navigating a new business, this is an episode not to be missed. Anna, I'm so happy to have you, and we've been chatting for about 20 minutes before we started recording this, so I'm really excited to actually record this now. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me on your show.
So let's start from the beginning, because I feel I have neglected my assistant community a little bit on this podcast, and this is the start of bringing it back more. So watch out, all my assistant friends who are going to be coming here. But tell me about your career before Pally Talks and going from an assistant to business owner.
When I left uni, I started a jacket company. So my sort of entrepreneurial thing started then. I then closed it down because it was getting into the tailored jacket trouser world, and I was like, this is not where my specialty is. And then I did loads of different sort of admin. I was an admin for a estate agent, and then I worked for a travel PR agency, and sort of was like, what do I do now? And then I moved to Parma in Craven.
Classic way to be an assistant.
Yeah, I moved to Parma to actually try and be a deckhand on a super yacht, and it was...
Stop it. I'm obsessed with Below Deck. It's meant to be that we're meant to be friends. Because also, by the way, I need to tell the listeners as well that Anna went to the same school as my husband, so we have a weird connection as well. I already know the same area and some people. So did you do that?
So because I landed in Parma, it was after the first lockdown, so we were like, maybe we're out in the clear now. Go to Parma, let's start my career out there. And they were doing skeleton staffing, which is like, get rid of all the staff, and they're just empty boats with 2 people on. So I was dog walking, trying to hand in my CV, and they were like, no, we're getting rid of all our staff, no one's hiring. So I got a job on one day on one boat and didn't actually leave the harbour. And so I started applying for jobs back in London, got a job on a super yacht and in London on the same day. And the recruiter was like, Anna, this is a really good opportunity. You'd be mad to miss this. And so I jumped on a flight back, and it was Christmas. How many years ago? What was COVID? 21, maybe?
God.
20?
Wow,
20.
yeah.
And then, so I then landed in a family office as an EA, and that's where it all began.
Wow. So oh my gosh, like you've been around the EA world as long as Upsource has, weirdly, as well. I didn't know that was so new. So what did you love the assistant role? What did you love about it?
I did. So I did about 2 years in this family office, and so my experience as an EA is quite short-lived, but I learned so much in those 2 years. I was in as this level, a middle EA. We had a junior EA and a senior EA, and the senior EA was basically my mentor. She taught me everything, and our boss in the private family was demanding, but also a really good family to learn everything from, because I was handling the cars, the buying and selling of the cars, whilst also buying and selling houses, whilst also flying places to do things, whilst also doing the accounting back in the office. So it was everything. And I suppose it was thrown in the deep end, but a chance just to learn all parts of business, really. And I think that's potentially why I took away so many skills and transferable skills to starting Pally Talk, because I was basically doing anything and everything every day.
Yeah, a bit of like the startup small business vibe there. And I love what you said about having an EA show you the ropes. I've had the same, and I think that's so important. And that's where, like, still the real life work does lend itself, or what we always try and replicate at Upsource. It's like having someone to show you what great looks like. Like, so many of us need that. I definitely did from my senior EAs that I worked with from the age of like 21 to 25. So you launched Pally Talk March 2024, and then Hector was born in May. So what was your transition and plan? Were you always going to launch a business when you decided to have a baby? How did that work?
No, so I left the London job, moved to Peterborough, got married, and I was like done with the commuting. I need to start spending time at home with my new family. So I became a virtual assistant, and so the plan was to be a virtual assistant, have a baby, go back to being a virtual assistant, and that was sort of the plan. And then for some reason I had this like niggling thing in me last year. Me and my husband used to do dog walks when I was pregnant, and obviously we had Rusty, and I was like, what business can I start? What business can I start? What business can I start? And you're just going over and over and over, and every night I was thinking of other ideas, and then this one just stuck. And then I think when you're pregnant and you're working from home, you understand how fortunate you are to have such a flexible working life. The appointments aren't a problem. Running to the shops to get things for the nursery or whatever it might be, you don't have to.
Or visiting nurseries. I was thinking about this. I was like 9 months pregnant and a nursery with my first, and I was employed, and just going on, like, they'd be like, when are you due? And I'm like, today, but I need to look around the nurseries. But it is like, you need that, the flexibility. You start to learn that in pregnancy, don't you? Not just when the baby's here.
Yeah, I think when you're pregnant, suddenly your world changes, because you're like, I need to do these things. Aren't just like, I can do them next week. It's like, no, I need to do this. I need to see my midwife on Friday, and nothing can sort of come in the way of that. And so the idea then came to mind, and I had spoken to mums who had their children, had time off work, and wanted to get back into the working world, but were like, how do I start? Like, I'm not going to know how to drag a file into an email. And I was like, of course you will. You just need that part-time admin role just to get your head back into the confidence that you need to then sort of move back into a career if you want to. And they were like, that would be amazing. So the part-time remote element of Pally Talk, that's where it was sort of born, just to give mums a place to start again if they wanted to get back into work.
So do you think it's more pivoted now towards assistance? While it is definitely got flexible job roles and things, do you think you're more of an assistant marketplace as well?
Definitely.
Has that been intentional or just happens organically?
I think because I had underestimated the growth, I think, and it just sort of grew. And I did a survey after about 6 months, and I was like, how many assistants are actually mums in the group? And it was like 35%. And I was like, so actually there's a huge need for the network besides just being mums. And I was like, actually, like, everyone can support everyone in their career, share jobs, share contacts. And so it's just sort of it evolved over time, which I suppose does naturally with a new business.
And what kind of stage was it at when you had your baby, and what was did you have a plan for maternity leave? What did it actually look like?
So the business website went live on March the 13th. Then Hector was born May the 12th. So he was actually 2 weeks late. So I was ready to
I had a 10-day late baby, and I was like, for God's sake, I was just, it makes you so angry, doesn't it?
You know, the max they can let you go over is 12 days. So then obviously I was induced, so it pushed me to 14 days when the baby was born. They said on my due date, he's a big baby. And I wish I'd then known, obviously hindsight's, now I can say this looking back. I wish I'd been like, no, if he's going to be big, let's get the ball rolling. But I didn't, and I let it.
You don't know that, like, they don't even know with measurements, and I think that's, we can all be hard on ourselves and think things like that. I really do think we can be hard on ourselves. I think my baby measured completely different. He measured the weight 2 weeks before the weight he came out 4 weeks later. It shows, and he didn't just stay stagnant in my belly those last 4 weeks, and he came out absolutely fine. And I think, I think with hindsight, it can actually kind of be hard while you need to kind of maybe process it a little bit. But it sounds like with hindsight, sometimes we can drill down on ourselves more, or mothers can, I think, in that stage, because you're still so early on in your journey after it, aren't you? Is that when it went to C-section, we said in your bio? And
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he 2 weeks late, and I was doing it all, trying to do it all naturally, and then they were like, "Oh
Mm.
no, he's turned back to back," and then I was
Oh.
swept through. The like the midwives and the labour of the couple of days I was in were unbelievable. That I couldn't have wished for it any other way. And actually, like you say, you can be critical looking back, but actually, it is what it is, and it sort of
And if
happens.
you got amazing care, I think that's like a brilliant point, because there's
Yeah,
people who have positive births but don't feel they got the care they should have needed, and
yeah.
it's so hard. But it sounds like you did. And but it would have been a recovery process for you. So how did you even think in those early days, what am I going to do business wise? Were you even thinking about it?
So I was going to go back to the lady I was working to before, and I'd said initially 3 to 6 months, but before you've had a baby, you sort of say these numbers and you haven't really thought it through. But I actually, because Pally Talk was so new, we had probably about 300 sign-ups. I feel like we were getting traction at the time when I was basically going into labour, so it was annoying, bad timing. Anyway, I started working with this lady called Steph, who sort of saved my bacon over those first couple of weeks. She stepped in and just sort of kept everything moving, so it didn't all just suddenly go silent and stop. And so we worked together, and I think I started back 2 or 3 days a week after about 5 or 6 weeks. And I hadn't planned to go back that early, but it just happened that way. And I think for my next baby, if I'm fortunate enough to get pregnant again, I will do that when the business is ready to have someone to cover me for a proper maternity leave, because I feel like I missed out on those early stages, and sort of networking with local mums who are at those early stages, and just having that sort of time when you just talk about your baby and you and how you're getting on. And I sort of shoved myself back into the working life. So yeah, I didn't have a plan, but it sort of happened.
Yeah, we've spoken that a lot on this podcast, and it always makes me think of Sasha from Olio, who she's got one child, and didn't do any of that with. And did you do any of those baby groups or anything like that? No. And and I said, like, I'm 2 children down now, and I've had to kind of make peace that, I mean, COVID prevented it with the seconds a lot as well, or kind of just have to make peace. I'm not that kind of person, but I've got the flexibility when they started school that loads of my friends don't have. So if that's some reassurance on the other side, and you never know, if you do have a second, you might turn out to be like me and like, okay, that stage just isn't for me.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So you threw yourself back into business. How did that work childcare wise? And how did you have a plan? Like, I think you're so new in your business journey as well. I think it's so interesting for ones right at the start to see 1, 2, or 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, but a year ahead, and be like, did you have a plan? Because obviously you've pivoted with it being more for assistance, and obviously it's the perk. It does have flexible roles for mothers there as well. But yeah, what's have you followed a plan of, like, sign-ups, how you're going to produce and get revenue, things like that, or get invested in? Because you did a post recently on this about the startup lingo.
Nice. So I'm sure you and sort of founders have found the same thing. You get suddenly a flurry of, are you looking for investment? Can I help you with investment? Can you join our roundtable for investment? And I'm like, no, not yet. Partly because I don't know anything about the investment side, and sort of opening that door at all. But at the moment, so we were always had a plan to just the whole growth was just going to be grow the members, get more assistants in. As soon as you get more assistants in, it will just build momentum. We then started working with trusted partners and advertising partners in December. So January was our first sort of income paycheck from our first trusted advertiser. So the January just gone. And so we've just built up the income revenue from them. And actually the partners that we have been amazing. They're all supporting our assistants because they're sort of car companies, private jet companies, concierge companies. And so they're people that obviously benefit from the business coming from the assistants, but they're also contacts for the assistant to be like, I'm stuck, someone help me, and then they can contact. So it's sort of a win-win in that situation. And then the plan for the next stage is up in the air, to be discussed when me and my husband go to Portugal the week after next, just because we need to just take a step back and just say, where is this going now? Do we focus on the jobs? Do we focus on the advertisers? Do we start charging a sort of membership fee of such? But there's so many different ways we can go, and it's just finding what's going to be best for our members and what's going to be best for sort of the business in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being so transparent of your first revenue month. I think that's so important. And so you've self-funded it until then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so is your husband involved in the business as well, or is he just your personal stakeholder?
My investor.
Excellent. And then another sounding board for you, which is great.
I know, because he's not in the industry at all, but it's sometimes really nice talking to someone when I'm getting so knotted about things and he's very black and white. He's like, no, don't do that. Focus on that. And sometimes you just need that, like, stop wasting your like mental energy on this project when, like, come on, get back to the where you were.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. Actually, Amanda Johnson, she's the trainer
Yeah.
in the VA world, and she would say this when I used to do days with her back when I started, of like, your husband is a stakeholder, your partner is a stakeholder, whoever provides childcare for your children, like, if it's grandparents, I'm not talking about paid support, but they're all stakeholders in your business doing well. And and some of them, you wouldn't get advice from, and others that's really powerful. My husband's done the same, of like, it's clearly not the client for you or the team member for you, is it, if this is what make it, what it's doing to the business. And I'm like, okay. So I love that. So very important to highlight about. And so now you've done it, and what's your working life on the business now? Are you 5 days a week? What's your personal approach with that?
We do, at the moment, we've got Mondays. I've got Hector, so I don't really do anything on a Monday just because I can't do him, and I don't know if it's having a son thing or it's Hector, but I can't even reply to one email, let alone.
Oh God, no, they're chaos. So I've got two, and I've had a lot of boy mums on the podcast, or masculine energy, some of them might call it, and they don't sit still and anything. And I just don't believe, like, we're paying for childcare. That means childcare is a job, and I don't believe childcare, whether you're unpaid or paid for it, it should be done alongside another job. And, unless you have to, like, I had to do an email while I was on the bus with the boys yesterday, and they are a bit older, but I still had to be like, I'm really sorry, I just need to get this email out, and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'll be there in a minute. And it's just like, I try not to do that, but all day with them when they're a toddler, no. Yeah.
How old are yours now?
6 and 4. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Does it get easier?
No, I'm entering middle childhood, and it definitely does. The toddler years, you're in for a ride. Everyone says it doesn't, but I also, like, I had a lot of trauma after Jasper. I had a COVID babies, a lot of job loss. So I think loads of those things in isolation would have been hard for one person. So I had, when I had people further in their parenting journey going, it doesn't get easier, and I'm like, my life must get easier than this. And it definitely does. Even with a business and a team of 36, my life's a lot easier now. But they are, you come out of the hormones. Demi takes 2 or 3 years to get away from the hormones. I know at a year you start to feel it, but that's everything I always feel. Like, middle childhood, I think, is a bit of a sweet spot. Out of nappies, which we overnight, which we got from January this year, and I was like, wow, this is brilliant.
Gosh, the new life.
It's a new life, and they argue and all of that stuff, but no, it's a different season. And for me personally, I know it won't be the same for everyone, but for me personally, it's definitely been so much easier, and it's taken time to get here. I only started working 5 days on the business from September last year. So, but for you, so you have Mondays with Hector, and
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I do a Friday half day. So I collect him at 1, which actually works really well, because we get the weekends are obviously quite busy, and Monday's sort of like a calm. I do sort of like chores, and he sort of follows me around desperately trying to get attention. And then I had a 4th day. One week we were here, and I was like, actually, I'm going to see if the nursery have got space to get him in on the Monday. Suddenly I had 4.5 days of work. I was suddenly like, oh my God, so much time. So what do I do?
What you can achieve, this is what I start to learn. I can't believe how much I managed to do in 3 days, when it took me a long time after my second to really commit to those 3 days. And it was school days. I'm on school hours now. That's the only thing that changes as well. I'm like, bring back 6 p.m. and tea at nursery.
Because school is this. I live by a school. They collect at 3:30.
Yeah, you'll see me leaving the house at 2:30, and even sometimes my husband's like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "The school run." He's been in a year now.
I love it. He's just like sitting there. He's still got the rest of his day to work, and it is like a half day.
It is a half day essentially. And that's why I finish a bit early to get a walk in, because otherwise, yeah, it's these little hacks you start to learn, which you only do.
Yeah.
But you have written already in your first year so powerfully about how workplace are failing new mothers. Did you have friends who you'd seen it happen to? Had you seen anyone that you'd been like, because I think I was quite oblivious because I was the first of my friends and then went through all the shit myself about us doing it all wrong. Did you have people in your life that you're like, this isn't working for them, is it?
So my eldest sister, she's always had sort of a childcare struggle. It's either been like her and her husband both used to commute to London, and it was like getting back, and then you've got the train delays, then you've got the nursery pickup, and then you've got the drop off in the morning, trying to find a nursery that would take them early enough. And so that was sort of my introduction to the nursery struggles. To be honest, when I got pregnant, it was what do you do for a job? I'm virtual because I want to be available to collect nursery kids. And then on these Zoom calls with other people I was speaking to, we'd always get onto the topic of children because I was pregnant. And then we'd always navigate to like, oh, it's a nightmare with kids, but getting back and getting the train. And then I had another networking lunch a couple of months back as well, and they were all like, got to get back. And so it's just a conversation that always happens. It's like, how are you juggling the life? And I suppose I don't have a personal connection friends wise because I'm like you, I probably am one of the early ones to have babies, but the conversations will start popping up in the friendship group as well when that sort of stage happens. But it's just an ongoing like battle. Expecting mums to get back to the workplace 5 days a week, full days. Yes, it's doable, but they've got to change everything again, and it's just unfair on them, and it's unfair on the kids.
Yeah, and very expensive as well, hugely. I think often I see this. It is a little bit. I'm got to be careful how I say this. A little bit part frustration in the assistant world is out of desperation for work. I do see a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'll just be a VA," and they've got no experience of being an assistant or looked into it. You can definitely pivot. I don't want to like say it's not a role for people, but I think that's still the perception of it. Is like, I've managed my own bit and box. I can do someone else's, and I'm like, and like explaining that to them, and it's a little bit tough. So that's why I always point people to great resources and people who do train VAs like Amanda and things, and resources like yours as well, like Pally Talks. It's like, because then I'm like, then if you're serious, come and have a chat with me rather than thinking I can just give you work because you've had a great career doing something else, when I've got loads of people who have all this experience and I can place in roles straight away. How does that, do you ever see that in the assistant world a bit, and how do you feel about the perception of the assistant world?
I think it's a really interesting one, especially on social media these days, because there are and actually I think TikTok's more bad for it because it sort of sells you the dream. Lie on a beach in Bali and earn £100,000 a year, and there's loads of that, which I think in a way is just sort of dragging people into this. It's like a false security, and then they land as a VA. At one point in the WhatsApp group, we had lots of like looking for a client, but actually they'd been VAs before, so they've successfully found clients and gone to grow their VA business. But I think if you haven't been a VA and you're going into the VA world, it's so much harder than people perceive it. There's so much more to creating the business that you now own. And Amanda did a training course yesterday, and she went through starting a VA business masterclass. But so it was an hour, and she could have gone into every detail like 4 times over, because there's things like insurance, the ICO registration, the creating a business, whether you want to do a sole trader or what's the
limited company.
And that's just like scratching the surface. And
that's creating a business. For me, it's like doing the work. Because anyone can, because that's it. Well, the Goldman Sachs program just started. The amount of businesses that are on Companies House, ones that are actually making money is another matter. But anyone can go on Companies House and create a business. Being an excellent VA and whatever specialty that is, just because you've had a career before doesn't mean the assistant world is the right one for you, aside from that as well.
And it's knowing how to service your clients remotely, but also having the experience to do it well. And I think it's not saying if you do it badly you're going to ruin the industry, because that's not fair. But if you are doing it without having the experience or knowledge, you're just throwing yourself into a sort of a fail when
Mhm.
just get the training or join the networks like Pally Talk and just get some advice from other assistants. Join as a VA associate for someone who actually wants to train you, and then you can start. You can be a trainee, and I think there's so much.
Yeah, and that's
Actually, you
different because
can
a lot
join.
of associate roles aren't trainee roles. So
Yeah.
you've got to then find someone who is willing to
Mm.
have you on as a junior and also know you're a junior, because I think that's the challenge, is maybe
Yeah.
some don't want to be a junior, but it's like you don't know how to do the role though.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's different when you're going to an agency and they're training you in a certain way of doing things and the processes because you
Yeah.
know how to already do the work. That's different. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's such an interesting point, and it's nice to speak to like-minded people
I
about
know.
it.
It's just like get training like you would in every other
Yeah.
career path.
Yeah, if you want to go be a bookkeeper, you've got to go do the bookkeeper training and register.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot, and like I said, TikTok doesn't help. And I think it's almost like in motherhood, you're kind of desperate for that role, that work, that lifestyle. And it's like, yeah, but if it was so easy to get, you would have had it pre-kids, because it would have been a great lifestyle pre-kids, going to Bali and earning all this money. It's just, you would have done it before. And that's what I always think about when people are like, just sell some templates online. I'm like, yeah, if you really can make money at it that easily without a huge amount of work and tunnel vision on what problem you're fixing, we would all be doing it pre-motherhood.
Exactly. I wonder what the statistic is for the people going employed VA back to employed, because I bet there's a
Yeah.
lot of returning workers back into the employed workforce just because they realise, oh my God, I can't do this. This isn't what I signed up to on TikTok. And then they go back. They go back to where they
Don't sign up to things on TikTok, is the
Yeah,
the
that's
moral
the
of it.
lesson.
And like you've shown, you've been so transparent with your first revenue month, which is so key, because I think people need to understand, like, there's so many different elements that go in starting a business, and an element of being able to not have a revenue month unless you've got another way of bringing in the revenue, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Doing the work for something else and then building your business and all that jazz, which is the whole minefield when you're pregnant and things anyway. And what were those early days for you returning to work and things? Because you had a lot going on. You'd gone through this emergency C-section, but you were supported really well. But your family also had a really heartbreaking experience as well.
Yeah, so I was throughout the pregnancy, me and my sister were pregnant at basically the same time, and I had my baby May. Emily had Archie on the leap year, February the 28th or 29th.
Wow.
Yeah, and when Hector was 4 weeks, Archie was 3 months, we actually lost Archie to SIDS.
Gosh.
Yeah, so that was, oh yeah,
How old was he?
he was just over 3 months.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Gosh, I'm so sorry. And it's, as a sister, I think it's another piece for you to go through when you've got Hector there, and trying to sort through that. Was it her second child, her first child?
It was her second.
Second,
I think
yeah.
I think what's like sorry, my heart is like racing.
No,
I've not
no.
spoken about this very much. I think what's really hard when you have a sibling in sort of pain is you don't know how to look after them, because you're never sort of taught when you're younger, like treat them like this or help them in this way. It's sort of like a learning curve in itself. Do you know what I mean?
No, I completely agree with that, with like sisters as well. Like, I think I was pregnant when my sister was not getting pregnant, and that was a really tough navigation period. Nothing like baby loss or anything, but I remember saying the same thing. You're not taught what's happened when
Yeah.
one sister has something and the other wants it more than
Mm.
anything. And and with baby loss as well, it's such. How is she doing now?
Amazing. She's actually
Is
just
she
had her third baby, Eddie. Yeah,
her
she had
third
him.
baby?
Yeah, she had him about 2 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago, so he's super new, and you forget how beautiful and gorgeous little newborns are. But he was 6'9" or 7'9". But yeah, he's divine.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like she is doing amazing things to also help the baby loss community. And have you both managed to find some way of getting through this period? It's still new and fresh as well, so I'm really aware of this. It's only
Mm.
been a year and it feels so long ago, I can imagine, but it is so new and fresh to all of you. But has she found some way, like a way with what's it called, the baby loss club or something?
Yeah, exactly. So when it all happened, I think Emily and George, her husband, they were like, "What do we do? Like, who do we turn to? What are the next steps? That this is this is sort of, yeah, again, it's something you just don't know. And she got contacted by loads of amazing, I say loads, there was about a handful of incredible charities. One of them she went with, and I want to remember the name. I'll remember it afterwards. I want to say Shining Star or Little Shining Star or
If you
something.
remember it, we'll put it in the notes so people can go
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
And since it's happened, Emily's always had this like ambition just to build more awareness. Even if it's not happened to you, it might have happened to your friend or your auntie or your grandmother. There's always someone who knows someone who it has happened to. And then you suddenly realise, oh my
Yeah.
God, this
Yeah.
affects everybody.
Yeah.
And so the Baby Loss Club we're hopefully going to make it a charity one day, but setting up a charity is harder than we'd anticipated.
Oh,
So
good to know. Right.
yeah, yeah. So it's a CIC to begin with, and it's going to be a community where mums, husbands, sisters, cousins, whoever can just log in and just say, really need help finding, let's say it's a therapist in this situation, or can anyone point me in the right direction to raise money for whatever question it might be, or really struggling with my day to day, who's had this before. So there's gonna be a forum, hopefully events eventually, and just create this place where people can go to when they're really struggling and they're really lost and they don't know which charities to reach out to, and it's all happened and it's all too much, and they can just log into this club. And when it first happened, a couple of mothers that Emily spoke to were like, you're in the club that no one wants to be in. And so that's why it's called Baby Loss Club, because we're all sort of united by that one trauma. Yeah, she's sort of like anyone. And I think also with all of our direct family, we're also entwined in it now, that she's like, it doesn't need to be just the mum and the dad who lost the baby. It's anyone connected to it who's also struggling.
That's so amazing to see that. And because I so agree from my experience of starting to have my family talk to me what happened when we almost lost our second. It's like you had, because I always, as a mother, shut off to everyone else's feelings, but it is as a sister and as a supporter of someone going through that, a really challenging time for you as well. And I'm so very pleased to hear she's doing well at the minute, and about Teddy. So thank you for sharing that with us, because it's so important to talk about these times that are entwined and what we navigate with motherhood. It ends up being such huge things that you don't think about, because you're thinking about the shiny advert sold version of motherhood, aren't you, when you're going to it. And so you mentioned that, having childcare early on really helps keep tunnel vision on this. You clearly have known while you're still open, you're looking on the direction of the business, but any mothers watching you now going through a really challenging time, thinking of starting a business or anything like that, is there anything you think that can help them in those early months from your memory? Or they've started a business and they want to get back to it and it's still very early days for them?
Do you think the early stages when you've got this passion project but you haven't sort of put it out to the market, or you have and you don't know the feedback, I think there's always that you can get the business out there without actually spending any money. Obviously it would take your time, but like LinkedIn is amazing. And we had the discussion earlier, like it's so active. If you've got a business idea, start sort of pitching it and selling it on LinkedIn, because there's obviously you create the company page, but there's just such a huge network that you can just start DMing. And it's not like you're limited. Obviously you're limited to the amount of connects per week, but you could just start messaging and just sort of building that awareness. So because when I first had a landing page, I just started sending it to assistants, and I think we had about 270 signups before it had gone live, just because people were like, oh, interested in that. And I suppose you can just do those initial bits just to build up your confidence before you go, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to launch. And so
I love that, because mentioning DMs is such a good point, because Anna, I know you're good at that, but I think loads of people are like scared of that. But to be transparent, I literally DM'd someone this morning about a podcast I've seen everywhere that I think could partner with us, and I had a response last night, and they're an employee, it wasn't from a founder or anything, and then it made the introduction for me this morning. That was from a LinkedIn DM, and I was like, I don't do this enough, I need to carry on doing this. And it's so true, and it needs to be transparent, because I think some people talk about the presence in commenting, and it's like, get in someone's DMs, just do it.
It's amazing. For our advertising partners, I just Google head of marketing at blah blah blah, head of marketing blah blah blah, and it comes up on Google. You click it, you click through, you email them, and Okay, we don't get replies all the time, but we
No,
do.
that's the transparent part. We don't get replies, but don't take it personally. I don't
Yeah,
reply to
just
lots
go
of
on to the
people.
next. I
Yeah,
know.
move on to the next. Just be like, that's fine. Just be polite.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes if you're launching a business, if you get that one established company who will partner with you, suddenly you've got that instant recognition and then you're sort of the ball's rolling. And I just think there is no harm. Just send messages, send messages, send messages. I mean, I send so many messages. I'm surprised
And some of
LinkedIn.
them respond, don't they?
Some of them respond. Some are like, no, but on Sales Navigator, which is an upgrade you can do, I think for about 50, £60, you can't resend them a message if they haven't replied. So you actually
No.
can't spam them. So it's just like you get one opportunity, you send it, and if they reply. And you can do video,
Wow,
you
I've
can do.
got another software where you can do that called Dripify. So I'll talk you through that another time, Anna.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
known as a spammer.
But you have to connect to them, but you write a process for it. It's really good, by the way. So yeah, I'm just selling Dripify. Dripify wants to come sponsor the podcast.
That is incredible. And then
Yeah.
so they do the connect, the message, and a follow-up.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, you have to make the process and everything, and you still have to use Sales Navigator, but you connect it with Sales
Yes, I
Navigator.
do.
I know. I did sales training last year. That's what I learned. I'm sharing my knowledge there. That's why I don't gatekeep here, everyone. This is so we tell everyone the hacks, and that's our hacks. Yeah, exactly. I think DMing is such a good thing, and talking to people and using your network, even if you're like not got the privilege of being in London or a big city, that's even more important for you because it's hard, and it's hard for us to get out in the early years as well. And speaking about the early years and being hard to get out, what's been your hardest phase of the first year of motherhood?
I think this might be quite controversial. I didn't love the newborn stage. And
I
this,
don't think that's controversial. I think a lot of people don't. I love the newborn stage because I like to sit on the sofa, and I missed it with my second. So I feel like I'm glad I did it well with my first because I didn't get it with my second. But at the same time, I'm like,
I know now you try and sit down for like 2 minutes and they're like, no.
I just sit and watch
Yeah,
Netflix and have a baby on my boob. Thank you.
I know. Maybe we
But
maybe
fair, but loads of people don't love it because your hormones are everywhere, and it is a really anxious time for so many,
yeah,
especially if you're recovering from a traumatic event or something.
exactly. And I think I don't know. The thing is, because I can't relate it to another birth. I don't know if it was because of the sadness from Archie and the trauma, because I
Yeah,
wanted to get back to Paddy Talk, or just because all of it combined was just too much to
too
be
much.
sitting at home, that I just didn't enjoy the first 6 months. But to be honest, since 6.5, 7, 8 months, I have loved it. And I think the hardest bit about the first year of motherhood is just finding what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and sort of finding your happiness again, because everything is sort of taken from you and given to you at the same time, if that makes sense. And
Oh,
you're
yeah, that's a lovely way of phrasing it. It's true.
yeah, it's true.
Your whole life is taken away, but you're given a new one. But you have to
Yeah,
navigate it.
like
It's like,
that.
I don't know. Some people, I don't know. I think the ones who say it's harder later on really swan into the early years. But if you're like us and haven't swan in, it's like,
I know. I think the whole thing is harder than you're ever sort of advised. I think there's so
mm,
much focus on the labour, but actually in the grand scheme of things, the labour is done, let's say, in 3 days, and then you've got to actually bring the baby up. And I think it's in a nutshell, it's hardcore. And I think mums and parents are unbelievable.
yeah. It's so unbelievable because we're totally rebirthed at that point. We go
Yeah.
from that girl who's like, I'm not going to put the baby before my life. I'm not going to do this, to going, actually, this baby is my life and you can wait
Yeah.
until I'm, I'm ready. And you go through a whole rebirth and it's brilliant. I mean, I can even see further out, like you're going through it still in this first year, and you put it in a nutshell. You went through so much in those first 6 months. It's no wonder you ploughed it into Pally Talks and didn't go to the mum groups. You know, you might not want to next time, but yeah, and that's okay. But that you can see why you took that journey, and it does look different. And anyone on the outside who sees it as like, oh my God, I can't imagine, they've not had your experiences, have they?
No, exactly. I do think time is really nice in the motherhood journey. And for me now, I've got to the point when I actually really like spending time with Hector. Like when I drop him at nursery, I'm like, bye.
They are lovely. I remember that with my first at this age. They're delightful, aren't they?
They always want to like hold you and kiss you, and they're just so sweet and loving, even though he started hitting at nursery.
That's fine. It's a therabiter. You just like,
He bites
be
and
the
hits, which
no, it's fine.
I know the nursery is so sweet. They're like, they go through this phase because
They
he's
do.
crawling to walking. He's in that awkward stage, and they were like, it's frustration because they can't walk. And anyway,
Communication, they can't do that either.
exactly. He just like, but yeah, it's a nice stage now, and yeah, I'm loving it enough to be thinking about potentially number two, which is
Oh,
really
I
nice.
love that.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever get here. I was like, this isn't for me. This is what do I do? This isn't for me. But I've got it. I've got there. Thank God.
Yes, and that's so normal as well. I think, you have your first and you're like, oh God, and then you start to go, okay, right, I've got this, I sorted it. And then that's when you're like, oh, I can do it again. You can, absolutely. That's so exciting. And also looking ahead. So that's looking ahead. But is there anything you want to share about Pally Talks? What's on the horizon?
So for Pally Talk, attention is being spent, you might have noticed, on social media. And I think social media and jobs are going to be our focuses going forward. How they're both going to work is TBC. But the plan is really just to grow the members, grow the community of get people together on these live events, get people sort of talking and meeting one another, and just hopefully by the end of the year, just create this hub where assistants go to chat to, which will be friends, assistants, like-minded professionals, and just sort of build on what we've created and just have like focus points like the jobs and the creative side, and hopefully it will just sort of keep going. And that's said by someone who isn't very good at scaling a business and is sort of in
Hey, you haven't done it yet. So
yeah,
we've all got to start somewhere.
I know.
I'm still
Like,
starting somewhere.
exactly. I'm like, what's the right terminology for this? I have no idea, but hopefully just sort of keep growing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're so new, and it's like the first year of motherhood, of first year of business. It's there, but there's a lot of parallels we can draw from them. That's so exciting, though, and I can't wait to find out more. And so you did a really good job about talking about finding your own joy just then. What is something Anna does just for yourself outside of business and babies?
I would say go to the gym.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds sad, but it's just the perfect hour. Music in, you don't have to think about anything until your phone goes off. But I've actually now put on Do Not Disturb, and I have the gym session for me. But also walking, running with my dog has to be just like a really happy, get out of the house, do things. And I am eventually, it took me time, starting to see friends again. And I don't know why it's taken me this long, but I think there's just been too much on in the diary, too much going on. And so that obviously makes me really happy, just seeing friends, having a couple of drinks, and sort of having a baby-free day, evening occasionally. And I'm just loving
That's
getting
so
back
hard
into
in your first year, and really normal as
oh,
well.
yeah.
Especially if you're the first to have kids. It's like, I think that isolation,
Yeah.
if you've not done the baby mom friends, I can relate to that. And I think it's always nice to say it's so normal. I can relate to that. You feel like you're pushing yourself otherwise, especially with everything you've got on.
Yeah. I think when friends have babies, it'll be really lovely. But I'm actually looking forward to meeting other mums with babies when Hector's sort of school or later in nursery.
Yeah.
And actually just having that same age level growing up, because I can be like, Hector, go play.
Oh, it's lovely. I can tell you the school years have been really nice, and I've thrived finding my community there because I didn't so much at nursery with COVID and everything, babies
Yeah.
going on. And I think the school years are delightful for that community building.
Exactly. So do you chat with other parents sort of at drop off and pick off, or do you just meet them better than at nursery? Because at nursery it's like, okay, bye, see ya.
We were talking about this with another nursery mum recently. Her kids are still at nursery, and at the same time my second was. And it was always felt like you were just dropping off and dropping back. But she didn't have the experience the first time. And I think it was COVID. Everyone was slower, and there was more connection built. But school is a bit different. There's a lot more activities to join in with, play dates. And it's not the same for everyone. I know people have got close friends at nursery. It just wasn't our period of time to do that. I don't think I could make friends during that period of time. And at school, I go started pickleball with some of the school mums now. So I'm doing like social stuff.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, So,
I can't
there's
wait for
always
that.
new communities. I think we all have different seasons, is my learn of when we do those things. And I think there's I like that though, ending on finding joy and finding, going out with your friends again, new friends is a really nice joy to have or something to look forward to. So thank you so much, Anna. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and Pally Talks?
Head to www.pallytalk.com or send me an email, anna@pallytalk.com, or WhatsApp. I'm happy to be contacted on any sort of...
DM
me
her.
on LinkedIn.
DM me.
Yeah,
So
DM
take her
me.
up on it.
Yeah, I'll reply to anything instantly. So just, ping me a message.
I love that. Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you for sharing everything about your first year in business and motherhood.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Bump to Business Owner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do rate, review, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to connect with more mums and business owners. You can DM me on @BumpToBusinessOwner on Instagram, and I'll be back next week.